Hi, welcome back to the Javits Center and the Nest Summit. Today we have Ingmar Rentzhog joining us, and I think the most important thing when we think about change and climate change is social networking sites. We look across the world at so many different things where social networking is affecting political scenarios or economic scenarios. So it makes perfect sense to me that we use social networking to wake up the world around climate issues. Ingmar, what was your inspiration in starting We Have No Time?
My inspiration was actually Donald Trump, because he made me realize that there's no world leader that's going to solve the climate crisis for us. We must do it ourselves. We can't wait for a world leader to solve this crisis. So that's where I came up with this idea how to create change really, really fast from the people. And what I've seen is that social media has changed the world in just 10 years. We haven't had social media for that long, and it has changed the world for good and for worse, but it has changed it and has done it in a really, really short time period. So that was the idea behind the We Don't Have Time platform, to create a social media platform that is solely focused on the climate and environmental crisis. And what you can do on our platform is get together with other people around the world and communicate to the leaders, pressure them to act more and act faster. And by connecting everyone, that is a huge power, and you can actually change it. So this was 3 years ago, and now we're here.
Ingmar, can you give us a sense of how fast things have grown, and what do you have upcoming to really drive the message home for people that are still trying to understand the impact and effects of climate change and potentially what they can do about climate change?
When you look back, it had happened very much in one way. In another way, it hasn't happened enough. But when we started, and I started the We Don't Have Time organization, the world was actually not talking about climate change as an emergency or a crisis. This was long before Extinction Rebellion, Greta Thunberg, and everything. And many people within sustainability thought that if they were speaking truth about this situation, they would scare people away. And I think we have played one role to actually change that. And today, people are talking about the climate crisis as a crisis it is. So what the world has achieved in this 2-3 years period is that we have realized the problem. More and more leaders realize problems, but they still don't act. And as long as we don't act, it doesn't matter if we just realize the crisis. So where we need to go now is actually that every one of us that have realized the urgency about this crisis, we must use our voices. We must influence others to follow. That is the solution needed, because we have this technology and we have the solution to actually solve the climate crisis, but we don't have the will of enough people to do it. And that's what we need to achieve.
As I understand it, there's also an app that's attached to your social networking site that lets people vote about how they feel about a company regarding their impact around climate change. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I believe that we must have everyone on board on acting on the climate crisis, and not just governments, but also businesses and organizations. And in order to help them to do more, we have created this tool where our users could identify and communicate to them, but also to the world, that they are doing something great. They can send climate love. Here is an organization and business that does something. Look here, you can take after and do the same. But we also have the climate warning, and that's the opposite. You could give a climate warning to someone that is doing the wrong thing, something they need to stop doing. And the board will see that. And people don't like to be criticized when the board looks on you. So for instance, on our platform, one user gave the president of Brazil, Bolsonaro, a climate warning, and the embassy actually answered and got really concerned about the criticism. They haven't changed yet, but they answered. So leaders care about what people think, if they are many enough. And on social media, it's really easy to connect people and have them act together. And we have created a technology to do that, to give businesses, organizations, and also governments climate reviews, what they do good, what they do bad, and how they can improve their sustainability work.
So as I understand it, you also hold events. Obviously, we're not holding live events these days, but you do hold events around your social media site that have had quite the impact. Can you tell us about ones that you've had in the past and what you have upcoming?
Yes, actually, long before Corona, we did the world's first global no-fly climate conference. And it was, of course, 100% digitally, and no one else did this back when. We were the first ones using Zoom, as we use now, for instance. And it was so efficient to reach out to people, to influence people about the climate. And the reason we do it is also, of course, because it's very, very low emission from doing events digitally. Now it's kind of ironical because of the Corona crisis. Everyone is doing those digital events, and that's actually good for the climate. So this year, together with the Earth Day Network, we actually hosted the world's largest global climate event, where we had over 100 speakers and 2 million viewers, where we collect people, leaders that do something to inspire others to follow and inspire for action. And we also have a cooperation with the Climate Group and the New York City Climate Week. So on Thursday, September 24, we're going to host a digital conference called the Exponential Climate Action Summit, where we have invited leaders from businesses like Intel, Ericsson, IKEA, etc., to share how they are actually working with their climate action and solutions, and about to halve the emission within 8 years. So we actually have created a trailer to show how we're doing those events, and invite you to watch this sister event on the Climate Action Weeks that we could play right now, I think.
Yes, definitely. Let's go to the trailer.
I founded this organization.
We're getting started.
Not so much glacier left.
Welcome to this online no-fly climate conference.
And it starts on the ground level, and it starts really small, and then it just builds and builds.
Our big banks are really bad for climate.
You can make a big impact just by breaking that silence.
We don't have the time to wait.
We are only really recycling 1% fiber to fiber.
Create a vision that is big and bold and beautiful.
This is our city. This is our responsibility.
Our goal is to connect people from all across the world through sports for climate.
We overconsume stuff that we don't really need.
The Earth doesn't double at all, but the economic activity does.
We don't just have a climate change threat to humanity. Neoclassical economics itself is an existential threat.
It was the first time that the international scientific community had spoken with one voice and said,
we're deep in the Anthropocene.
We will basically be defining the contours of the new economy for decades to come.
You are the people of the earth. Without land, you have nothing.
We need to understand the system in its entirety.
The product has been produced already, and only these parts which do not work anymore are exchanged.
Timber and wood is the only renewable building material that we have.
The investors who have already understood what this is truly about are achieving incredible returns.
We need different types of companies solving different issues,
and we will do it together
with the customers.
Our car will be only one piece of the puzzle.
There is simply no reason not to invest in the green transition and take it a step upwards.
We filter away the microplastics that are released from the clothes.
The fuel we're using is basically boiling water.
There's basically a marketplace where the suppliers of these negative emissions can trade.
No, we're not doing nearly enough to meet our Paris commitments.
One of the things that Chevron's predecessor company, Texaco, did wrong is they built about 1,000 of these toxic waste pits.
President Trump exemplifies the problem. He is a narcissist. He is a psychopath.
You can set these things up, come up with policies to get there, and then if you're genuinely committed, bring about heroic change.
We will never, ever give up.
Leaders around the world will take heed of our collective action, worry about it, and change their behavior. And if they don't, they will suffer the consequences.
We need to connect everyone in the world. We need to connect them, we need to bring them online, we need to educate them, and we need to teach them how to learn. We need to inspire their curiosity and get them thinking and coming up with new solutions. And once they come with the ideas, we need to listen.
We do have both the opportunity and the responsibility to intentionally choose the future that we want.
Ingmar, that looks like a great event, and if people want to get involved, they have to go to We Don't Have Time, and you're on Facebook, Twitter, all social media sites, correct?
Yeah, and our own platform, so you have to use Facebook, Twitter anymore. You can just use wedon'thavetime.org, and we're of course operated by 100% renewable energy, and we also plant a tree for all new users. So visit our site and create an account in the We Don't Have Time network and start the climate action today, because we don't have time to wait.
Ingmar, I know we don't have time, but could you leave us with any optimistic views that you've seen of late?
Yes, definitely. And this may sound a little strange to many people, I think. I actually had a conversation just before this event with my colleague of mine, and he was so depressed because on the news, on the normal television news, there were so many depressing events about the climate crisis, the ice melting much faster than predicted, etc., etc. And actually, I didn't agree with him that was very, very worrisome, because if you work with the climate field, you know that the climate crisis is worrisome. But what is great is that if the climate crisis is moving fast, so the humanity could see it and also report it on the news, we will act. Because the humanity is very good at acting on a crisis they can see. So of course it's not good that the climate crisis is playing out, but what we have seen with the corona crisis is that if you see the crisis right in front of you, we will act. And actually, I think we're going to act on the climate crisis. And I think the time we have ahead of us as consumers, investors, citizens, etc., will be dramatically changing the whole world, changing the economy, changing the society. And it will not be for something bad. It will be better society building. But if you don't like change, you should be worried, because we're going to change so much, and just ride on that change. And if you do wise investment in the green future, you will be a winner, and you will also contribute to save our planet and save humanity.
I want to thank Ingmar Rentzhog from We Don't Have Time for joining us at the Nest Summit. And good luck with your event, Ingmar.